Thanks so much for joining me on the Slice of Construction podcast. How are you today?
Doing well, Jared. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to have you here. First time on the show, so would really love, since it's your first time, if you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself and field materials, and then we'll go from there.
Well, first off, I'm a computer scientist. I did my bachelor's in computer science, then worked as a software engineer, then ended up pursuing my PhD at Stanford in computer science in AI and machine learning in general, and ended up dropping out, pursuing an entrepreneurial path. Ended up building a company, which was an AI company for retail. Did that for a few years. Then the company got acquired by PayPal in 2018. And then spent a couple of years at PayPal before I left. Then spent a year at a growth stage company. And then decided to partner with an old friend of mine, good friend of mine from many years ago out of Stanford. So my friend was in civil engineering program. I was in computer science at the time. We've gotten to know each other over the past over a decade now. And he approached me with this idea that material procurement and equipment procurement in general, procurement, I would say in general in construction is a very manual process. And it could be transformed in a major way with technology, with AI specifically. And so we started this company, and me coming out of a family of construction folks. So my father ran a general contracting business, and my mom has been a CFO and controller for a number of construction companies her whole life. I had a kind of a personal connection to this field. And the whole idea of pursuing a company in this industry really resonated with me. And plus, my partner coming from this domain, he's also a serial entrepreneur himself, was very, very motivated to pursue it.
So you doing something in the construction space was coming for you, whether you liked it or not, is what I hear there. It was all around you, and eventually those influences, I'm sure over time, right, help shape you wanting to go in and build this. Every great business has that personal tie. So that's really cool. What do they think now that you're doing something in this space?
I think I'm at the age where it's like I'm not necessarily looking for any approval from my parents for what I do. But I do think that, my dad, having spent his whole life in this industry, is excited, and he sees, I guess the thing that excites me the most out of this is that when I explained to him what the company's doing, he was like, wow, if I had this when I was building my construction business, it would have been transformational. So that's sort of like, I usually don't, seek advice in my business, let's say from my parents. That's not the kind of thing we discuss, but the fact that he was able to relate to the problem and it resonated with him was definitely exciting.
And especially more so than your past businesses because they weren't in, his industry.
That's right. I mean, a lot of times, you grow up as an adult, and it's hard to explain what you do to your family. And when they can relate to it, see it, and be like, "Wow, this is so cool! This is very cool." I think that's cool. I mean, just being able to relate to it.
Yeah, I wasn't always in like the podcast. I had a company that we're building to be like a TurboTax for licensing healthcare professionals, right? And whenever someone would ask my parents, like, "What do I do?" and they'd say, "Tell them," and I said, "No, I want to hear you tell them." Butchered, like, and it was like. It was cute though, it was funny to see. But like if I was doing something that they actually knew about, I'm sure it is a cool feeling still to be able to, say something to your family and they know what you're building. And not just that, they wish they had it. That's cool.
Yeah. And they can explain what it is and actually, really relate to it. Yeah, that's right.
Well, talk me through the journey a little bit. So a few weeks ago, you announced that you raised a Series A. Congratulations. That's obviously a big milestone. There was a lot of work that happened up until that point. Talk me through just like, what you can share in terms of what was working to get to that Series A point, and now what that Series A will do to continue to propel the business forward.
Yeah. So I can kind of rewind the time a little bit and get back into late 2021, early 2022 when we founded this company. um, we started from a very basic thesis that we looked at the space of material procurement, equipment procurement, and construction, and we said we started just by we had a thesis. Like Victor came from this industry, and we knew that this is a problem. But first off, we needed to understand how the industry operates. So um, we interviewed a couple dozen different contractors as well as distributors to better understand the space and better map out how everyone operates. And we initially started building this product, and we had a few hypotheses, I would say, but we realized that it had to have certain components, but we didn't know in exact sequence how, what sequence to build them and what would be a minimum viable product that the industry would actually want. And so we spent the whole year and a half in this like almost like a closed beta where like we iterated with a few handful number of customers to really iterate on the product itself, on the modules that we initially were trying to roll out. Initially we realized that this wasn't the initial module we rolled out. We realized it wasn't enough. We had to, iterate on it, change a few things, add some more functionality. Actually, one of the surprises to me was that, the feature footprint was much bigger than I anticipated for the initial MVP. And then in June of 2020, June 2023, which is just 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, actually, 23 months ago, we launched officially the product. So we said, okay, we're going to roll this out to more than just 3-4 customers that we had. And it really, and then the big thing that initially we wanted to have AI features from day one, but we didn't realize how big they would be because we said, okay, well, we needed the ability to read, quote documents. We needed the ability to read, packing slips. We needed the ability to read invoices, but we didn't think about it as like the thing that we would lead with. Almost like we just wanted to say, hey, we have a solution for procurement that does all these things. But as we launched the product by late 2023, we realized that this is the thing that makes a difference. Like this is what customers show it to their friends, their buddies, and saying, look, check this out, this is cool. And that's when the product really started kind of taking off. And once we launched the product and we were like 2 quarters selling that product, we saw that almost we had 2x growth now, 8 quarters straight. And that was like the realization that it's working. And the AI features is the thing that actually really wows people, makes it like really kind of makes them realize how fundamentally this is different from anything else they've seen on the market. And then like since then we've just been kind of growing. And what led to the Series A was that obviously we've raised seed money early on when we barely had a product. And then I'm really appreciative of all the investors that came in early. But as we scaled this product in the last, I would say, 18 months, the Series A was almost like an afterthought in the sense that we knew that we're going to raise money in the first half of this year. We're actually planning to raise later in Q2, but as we finished the year well above the expectations, like we actually exceeded our plan substantially. We had a bunch of investors that were like, hey, if you guys will plan to raise capital, we're ready to go. And we literally like said, hey, we're beginning of February, we said we're raising capital. 2 weeks later, we had a term sheet and we had like multiple suitors. And it's probably the first time in my life, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, I built several companies, where the capital raise was so quick and we had so much demand for it that you're not in that position to just be that selective. But we were like 30% oversubscribed, had a couple of term sheets, and really it was like the easiest fundraise that I've had in my life up to this point. But I think it's a testament to the fact that we're having a big momentum, just customers wise, demand wise, growth wise, that it's sort of like it attracts the investors to it essentially.
Congrats again. Like that's just awesome. Like good problem when you're able to raise earlier than when you expected you were going to have to, right? That's a good problem to have. And it allows you to focus more on the core fundamentals of the business versus having to, push a raise to later in the year.
That's right.
Even when you're able to raise, there's still the stress of getting everything together, right? And putting all that, and it takes time away from your other stuff. So, um, where do you see, okay, so you raised the Series A, like, where do you see, like, you don't have to give exacts, but it's like the use of proceeds really, what will be the focus now?
Mm-hmm. Well, several things. I mean, we have obviously objective functions that we're trying to accomplish, which we laid out to our investors. And, we want triple in size and revenue this year. We're still doubling in total volume of orders that we process in per quarter. The reason why I say still is because the baseline is not modest anymore. So we annualized, we were like, I think we announced it as part of our fundraise. We're processing now $400 million annualized. And this is already Q1 numbers. We're actually well past that. 400 million annualized orders on our platform for materials and equipment, which is substantial. If you think about it, it's almost $500 million, right? And so we're continuing to double that. So sort of that GMV number is very important for us. Revenue is very important for us. But at the same time, it's also what's very important is that the product itself. So I think that when I think about the overall product build out, we have now quotes module, orders module that includes packing slips and delivery tickets, invoices, inventory, and receipts. Those are 5 modules that we have in our platform. There's still, without disclosing which ones, but we still want to build 5 more modules at least in the next 24 months to our platform. So I think we're just maybe in the 3rd inning of the entire build out. So there's a lot of functionality that we need to add. And it's all driven by customer demand and what they actually requested. So when I think about it, that's where the money is gonna go, is to continue building out the platform, continue improving our AI models. We spend a lot of times just really being the best in class in terms of accuracy and being able to read all these construction documents. Like I said, vendor quotes, delivery slips, hauling tickets, trucking tickets, invoices, receipts, field requisition forms. Any procurement documents you can imagine in construction. We are number one, and we'll continue to be number one, just in the accuracy of being able to read these documents and automate all the data entry into the accounting software. So that's basically our continued focus, and while maintaining a very good pace on all the financial and business metrics.
What's something that you know today, but you did not know when you first started this, that it would have been eye-opening if you knew this at that time?
I think one thing I mentioned earlier is that feature footprint is pretty high. So building for construction, you don't realize how many, and that's a byproduct of the fact that we're building vertical software. When you're building for a specific vertical with a very complex domain, you have a lot of sort of this niche corner cases and features that you have to build out. And you don't realize how big that footprint is until you actually walk in and you see this entire room, because you kind of walk in with a flashlight, right? You're in the dark room in the beginning, but when you're building a company as a startup, you're trying to find that MVP and you're trying to kind of build out a product. You're in this dark room, and as that light becomes a little bit brighter over time, as you see more, you're like, oh my gosh, this room is so much bigger than I could have imagined. That's probably one big realization for us. And it takes iterations to build, different. We now work with contractors across 9 trades, and every trade, whether it's mechanical, electrical, drywall, wall and ceiling industry, masonry, civil contractors, whatever trade you pick, they have unique requirements. They have unique ways of how they operate. They have a lot of synergies. They have a lot of similarities, but there's still a lot of unique things. And that's what really makes it harder, I would say, to build vertical software and construction software in general.
Is there anything that, since starting this company, is there anything that at the time when it happened made you want to cry, but now looking back, you can laugh about it a little bit?
Well, I shared it actually on LinkedIn that in my post, uh, how this happened when we were raising our seed money in at the end of 2022. We actually we you know I'm a serial entrepreneur. I had success stories. I mean, obviously, I've sold my previous company to PayPal. I thought this will be a an easy fit to raise capital, and we had some premium investors interested in backing us up. But then we did get several no's, and I remember the day when Andreessen Horowitz just passed on us. At the end of 2022, and it felt a little bit like the world collapsed in a way. Like I was like, are we doing are we on the right track? Is it really, should we do this? And in retrospect, you realize that this was nothing, and like you will always get no's, and it's absolutely normal. And and a lot of especially generalist funds will be very very afraid to step into a vertical software because they don't know the domain. But now you look back, especially in the context of Series A, when we raised it so quickly and we had several options and we were hugely oversubscribed. You realize that with traction everything changes, and you just not you have to be persistent, and you have to stay the course, and you have to believe in what you do, and good things happen.
You're like, come on, Andreessen, you invested in Clubhouse, which people forget or is even a thing anymore. And look at us right here. We have PayPal. No, and by the way, you just pointed something out great though. There's so many of these great firms. I was reading the other day, they only hit on like 5 to 7%, right, of all investments. And they'll be the first to tell you we get it wrong, like a lot of the time. And they're not like saying it they'll openly say that.
No,
But you must love that still as an entrepreneur. Those anything that builds an additional chip on the shoulder is awesome. That added fuel, because you already have all the fuel that you need to build the company that you believe is going to be successful and get it done. Whenever you add that extra chip, it's like just extra fuel to the fire to keep it going.
yeah, that's right. I think that anytime anyone doubts, it's like the same in sports, right? That the athletes, when they don't get drafted as in the top 10 or whatever, that's an extra chip on their shoulder. The same way when it comes to entrepreneurship, every time someone doubts you, whether it's an investor or it's a big customer that ends up saying no to you last year, and then they come back and you're like, I'm going to prove you wrong, and you're going to see that like you're going to come back to me in a year because everyone else around you is going to adopt the software, and then you're going to be the last one. And so like that's the same way. So anytime you have that doubt, it's an extra chip on my shoulder that makes me that makes me want to work twice as hard. You know what I mean?
I love it. I really enjoyed chatting with you here today. Look forward to future conversations, and I'm wishing you and the team all the best of luck, and we'll definitely be following along the journey. But congrats again.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to join you in this podcast.